This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Welcome to the Commission on Disability's January meeting. It's January 3rd. The first thing that we're going to do just is roll call to see who's here, and then we're just going to go around and introduce ourselves because we have a couple of guests. So Jeff is missing. Anybody else?
Stan.
Is Stan not here online?
Stan is not.
I'm going to text
online.
him because he told me he put it in his calendar, like specifically to make sure he's here. Actually, I'm gonna close that door because we need to close that door. And anyone else missing?
Bryce is not going to be
Bryce is
here
not.
today.
Okay.
Yeah, Bryce wasn't here.
What happened to Bright?
It's just not, he has a lot of
He's
medical
got some
stuff.
stuff going on.
Yeah, he has a lot of medical stuff related to, he had surgery, he's
Yeah.
back now, but he has stuff.
Ah,
I'm just guessing. I
Yeah.
mean,
Not at
maybe
liberty
he's
to
on an
say.
island in the Bahamas, Caribbean
Yeah,
somewhere.
wow.
Especially on a town recording.
yeah.
Yes.
So Stan, Jeff, and Bryce. That's it.
Okay. So we're just going to go around and introduce ourselves so that both people that we have, both of our guests know who we are. So I'm Angela Baker. I'm the chair for the Commission on Disabilities.
And I am, to the camera, I'm Eli Damon. I'm the co-chair of the Commission on Disabilities.
And I'm Jeff Brown. I'm a member of the COD and a staff at Riverside Industries and an Easthampton resident.
I'm Molly Goodwin. I live here in Easthampton, and I'm on the board of the COD.
I'm Veronica. I'm resident of Easthampton.
I'm Sabrina Feliciano. I am the Public Affairs Specialist for Social Security, and I am a visitor today.
Hi, I'm Mary Morris, resident of Easthampton, and I'm the clerk on the COD.
I'm David. I'm Glenn. I'm Michael Briggs. I'm a detective in Easthampton.
Okay, so we're just going to dive right in. We do the speakers first, and so you're going to go first, and then after you've said your spiel, you can stay, you can leave. It'll be totally up to you, and then you'll be up with not a lot of pressure. Go ahead.
Okay, so as we said, I work for the Social Security Administration, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the offices right now, and then of course open up for any questions. So currently the offices all around the nation are open again. However, we're only doing general and post-entitlement transactions. So if you wanted to file an application for anything, you would have to actually make an appointment and do it over the phone or do it online. If you wanted to make an appointment, the phone number, I don't know if anybody wants it, is 1-800-772-1213. If you wanted to contact somebody in the local office, you would need to have their extension, and just be aware that our hold times are very lengthy at the moment. There's only a few people in each office answering phones at the time, so we do recommend online services or the 1-800 number because they're national and there's a lot more people answering at one time. They're also open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. So if you tried an off-peak hour, like before 9 or after 5, it's usually a little easier to get a hold of them. If you're looking to do a Social Security card application, you can do that all online now. Before we were only allowing duplicate cards, but even if you have to change something now, you can do it online. They may ask you to bring the proofs into one of the offices. You can make an appointment to do that, or you can walk right in. Disability, Social Security disability, the criteria is you have to have a disability that's going to last at least more than a year or be terminal. For Social Security disability, you have to be what we call insured, which means you have to be working 5 out of the last 10 years for Social Security disability. For our SSI programs, you didn't have to work currently or at all. However, you have to be under a strict income and resource guideline, or 65 and older and under a strict income and resource guideline. So either you're aged or you're disabled and you haven't worked at all or enough, and you can collect SSI if you're approved. It's easiest to know the difference if you're working with somebody or if you want to know which one you're on. SSI is always paid on the first of the month. All of the other Social Security disabilities are spread out every Wednesday of the month. So if you're on SSI, you would be paid on the first. If you're on Social Security disability, it would either be the first, second, third, fourth Wednesday of the month. This year, you have to be making under $914 of income if you want to qualify for SSI. Other than that, updates for us, cost of living increase, one of the largest we've seen in a long time, 8.7% increase for this year. It's usually like 2%, 3%. We went up to 8.7% for this year. And the other good thing is usually when we get a cost of living increase, they bang you with a higher Medicare premium. This year, the Medicare premium actually went down. So we got a big cost of living increase, and then the Medicare premium went down. So excellent. Hopefully we can keep that flow. The only other changes really, besides numbers for like income and things like that, would be Medicare is going through some changes right now. They are actually getting a little easier with their requirements for the Part B. Not only did the premium go down, but now when you apply for Medicare Part B, you usually had a little bit of a waiting period, and now it's the following month. So yeah, other than that, there's a bunch of numbers. Every year the numbers change as far as how much you can make, how much the limit is, and all of that other stuff. I have them with me if anybody has a specific question on them. But other than that, nothing really else new going on. We're waiting to be able to open completely. Right now we're a hybrid, so some people are in the office, some people are at home. The capacity in the waiting rooms is very small. So if you come to the office to do something, they may ask you to go back out to your car, and they'll call you when the office is less full.
I have a question. What does security mean?
Social Security?
Social
Whatever
Security?
you call it. Yeah, I don't know what it means.
So Social Security has different.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's okay.
That's why I'm here. It has different parts. It has Social Security disability, retirement, survivors. Those are for programs for people who have worked, put into Social Security,
Okay.
and then they qualify either because of their age or because they're disabled, and we pay them out monthly.
Oh,
Where your social security number comes from.
So
yeah, okay, I did, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
that's what I thought.
I
get they say.
I think you know how you get a check every month, David. So that's Social Security. That's your check that you get every month.
Can't say that on the video, it's
Okay.
private info.
Okay.
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 Okay, now I got it.
Anybody else have a question?
I do have a question on the disability. Now there's 3 types of disability?
There's 2.
2,
Yeah.
okay.
Social Security disability,
SSDI
it's SSDI, correct?
and then SSI.
SSI.
Now SSDI, is there an income bracket on that too, or is that?
So for the Social Security disability, if you're, right, so initially, if you're trying to get on, you can't be making over what we call SGA, or substantial gainful activity. And this year, that amount is $1,470. So if you are trying to apply for Social Security disability, you can't be making over that amount. Once you're on the benefit, if you choose to go back to work or start to work more, there's stages to it.
Okay. All right, if a person applying for SSDI and they're married, do both incomes count, or is it just one income?
Not for Social Security disability, it's the individual. SSI, yes, because it's a program based on income and resources, so everybody in the household counts,
Okay.
all their income counts.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you talk about how to apply for the Social Security card? Like,
Yes, so right now, most people are doing it online. You make an account, you apply it, it's maybe
so
about
if
10
you just
minutes.
have a baby, you go online from the hospital?
No, so that's for most things. So if you have something like that where you've never had a number before,
Yes, that's what I was thinking, sorry.
most of the time the hospitals do send that information and a number is assigned. So it's a longer time period, waiting period, but like if you called the office or you couldn't make an account for someone under 18, but if you called the office, they probably already have a number for the person. If you come into the office, it's probably going to be a little harder, but same thing. If they don't, then you want to bring the birth certificate with you and an ID for the parent.
People have other questions?
What are some things that surprise people about the process? Like, or that something that, you tell people and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Or some, maybe a barrier that people think they have that might not be a barrier or something like that.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I always have questions, or people send questions to me about, is the two different programs. They mix them up a lot, and Social Security Disability and SSI are two very different programs, even though they both pay disability. So that's probably the biggest question that I get. They get confused, the two, a lot, and they say, oh, I can't do this because I'm on Social Security Disability, and no, that's only for SSI, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So that's one of the bigger ones. Also, the work. Like once you're on the program, a lot of people feel like they can't work. That's untrue as well. They actually have a lot of work incentives for the program. And so I think those two are the biggest.
Okay. And so if I'm understanding, SSI, it's like a dollar for dollar deduction, or a 50% per dollar deduction over a certain amount.
Right, so you'll get a general deduction from, so whatever you made in that month, and we're talking about work, because that's what mostly counts. So whatever you made for that month, you'll get a general deduction, $85, they'll take that off of what you made.
Yeah.
And then they'll divide whatever's left in half.
Okay.
And that's what they count against. So
Okay.
for SSI.
Okay, and SSDI, they don't deduct, but after a certain amount, you're cut off.
Yeah, so
Is
for the
that-
first 9 months, there's not going to be, they're just going to monitor you. There's not going to be any changes or anything like that for the first 9 months. And then they give you a 2-month grace period where they'll reach out and say, okay, now we're going to start counting to see how much you're making.
Yeah.
And then after those 2-month grace periods, they're going to look at your income monthly. If you're
Okay.
over the amount, they won't pay for
Yeah.
24 months. If you're under, then they will pay for 24 months,
Okay.
but you're still technically on the program.
Okay.
You'll keep your Medicare if you have that. And then after the 24 months, then they'll reevaluate again and say, okay,
Okay.
looks like you've been working substantially, 24 months, and then they'll do an evaluation.
So you apply, you get accepted based on your application info, then they review in 9 months,
If you're working.
if you're working.
If you're working. If not, a straight case where nobody's working, if you apply for disability, we don't make the decisions in the office.
Okay.
We send them to a state determination office.
All right.
And they also determine when your first review will be.
All right.
And they let us know.
Where does the reporting come from?
The report.
Where like, how does the income information on a weekly, monthly basis get to the administrator?
So we usually ask people to report.
Okay.
There's a bunch of different ways that you can do it
Okay.
online, on the phone, you can mail them
Gotcha.
in, you can fax them. But if you don't report, then yes, the IRS reports it to us at
Okay,
the end of the
great.
year, but it's stickier, that way you can get an overpayment.
Yeah, okay.
Where are the offices?
I believe it's Springfield or Holyoke is the
here?
closest one to here.
But there's one in Springfield.
There is one in Springfield, 70 Bond Street for Springfield and High Street for
201
Holyoke.
High.
201.
Just for, not so much disabled people, but can you explain a little on the WEP?
Yes.
Okay, for if there's any seniors listening.
Yes. So WEP stands for Windfall Elimination Provision. And that will affect anybody who works for the city, state, local government, or municipality. Because in Massachusetts, most of those entities don't put into Social Security. They put into a separate pension. When it's time for someone who's getting that separate pension to retire, their benefits are offset or lowered, depending on how many years they put into Social Security. So just the easiest way is you're guaranteed 40% of your Social Security. Some people get more. It all depends on how much you put in.
So you're guaranteed. So Social Security then is keeping 60%
Correct.
of what they put in.
So if you're insured for Social Security, which, if you ever get a statement in the mail and it has a money figure, then you're insured, because we can't do that figure without you being insured. So if you're insured for Social Security, you're going to get at least 40% of what that statement is saying.
Is there survivors benefits or what?
There are survivors benefits for anybody, like a spouse or a child under age 18. And that's on Social Security disability only. SSI is always separate individually.
Okay.
So what does insured for SSI mean? What does that?
For SSI, you don't have to be insured, but for Social Security disability, you do. And for retirement benefits, you do.
Insured.
Meaning, if it's disability, you had to have worked 5 out of the last 10 years putting into Social Security.
Okay.
Or if you're retiring,
Yeah.
you have to have what we call 40 credits.
Okay.
So about 10 years of work
Okay.
putting into Social Security.
Okay.
I have a question. If you work as like a cop or a police officer, can they retire after they've been working for a long time? Will they be a police officer? They'll be a long time?
They can definitely retire whenever they're.
No, I'm just asking. I don't know.
Get me in trouble.
Yeah, but I know.
For
I just
social-
want to know. I just wanted to ask.
For Social Security, though,
Yeah.
depends on if they put into Social Security, because most
Okay.
police officers in Massachusetts put into a separate pension.
No, I just want to know what I mean.
But many of them collect both, yes.
All right.
I thought you were after, okay?
You can retire wherever you want, so don't get me in trouble.
That's so funny.
Great
Do you know why people get rejected from this SSDI? Is there like a big reason why?
It's the Disability Determinations Office that make those decisions, and they have sort of like a flow chart. So, they start at the top and they say, okay, does this person meet this criteria, yes or no, and then they keep following the flow chart to the end. So if at some point there's a no in there, then that can be a denial. Also, the criteria states that not just, so a lot of times like people are working and they're doing a job, let's say I've been working 20-something years in Social Security and I become disabled. So I can't do my job anymore. However, they're looking to see that you can't do any job anymore, not just the one that you had. So they can say to me, you're correct, you can't do your job anymore, but you can do this, that, or the third, and that will get somebody denied as well.
Got it.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Looks like you have some personal feelings
Yeah.
about the 60%.
Don't even get me going on
Right,
that.
that's
You're
what
gonna get
that-
stuck with that too.
I'm never popular with city state. I'm always in trouble.
Do people have other questions for her?
Yeah.
Stan, go ahead.
Sorry, Charles.
No, you didn't.
Just so I can clarify, the Social Security went up 8.7% cost of living.
That's
COLA. Is that across the board?
It
For
is.
SSI, SSDI?
For all beneficiaries, and if you haven't applied yet, you would still benefit when you do.
Thank you.
Stan, can you hear us?
Yeah,
He's saying yes.
He's muted.
Dan, you're muted.
Going down there.
I don't know.
You know what? I think the audio is muted. Like he's muted on our end.
No.
There's only with the
Oh, yeah.
video.
No, he's not muted on our end.
There's some little mute button down there that's.
Something wrong with him?
Paying Social Security, paying the pension.
Oh,
We're just gonna see if Stan has some questions and then.
That works elsewhere for a long time, so I might.
But we have, I lost the owl and I don't understand why.
We lost the owl?
Yeah,
And then
30 years
ever-
private industry.
So clicking on the
Have you ever
red thing
gotten a
is
statement
not,
in the mail?
where it says the video's not.
You know, if you're retired or disabled,
Right,
this
no,
is how much
that's
you'll
not
get,
gonna be
that
Comes
kind
around
of
your
thing.
birthday.
That brings it to,
So if you ever, or even if you
The
make your own
laptop
account
video.
and there's like a money figure there, then you're insured and you would get something.
on at all?
They can't send that out
I don't
without
think it
that,
is.
so.
There's a,
Yeah,
No,
make an
it's
account, they'll
not.
show you, and if you, they'll tell you how much you'll get.
I mean,
One time.
of course, you have technical difficulties.
Not say nothing.
But they count everything, your whole work history, and back, you know, before, it was a lot lower to get insured, so, and they count those. Like even, you know, bagging in high school, bagging groceries.
is this?
Keep that 60%.
That wouldn't be me.
That's not you, yes, we know it's not you.
But it's your, to me.
You have a way to go.
The law was passed in the 80s, like, I don't even, it's
But
like,
there's only 26 states that, and that's,
Alright, I'm gonna go get Kareem.
All right,
You know what? You have a long way to go. What's her name again? What's your name?
I'm gonna call Stan real quick. Yeah,
What?
Angelique.
yeah, me, yeah.
You have a long way to go.
No, I'm older than I look.
No, but you're not.
I am.
Go young.
I'm in my 40s,
I'm
so.
Oh my
58.
God.
You're, well, yes,
I'm
but
58.
still.
You're not old yet.
People usually think I'm in my 20s, so then I'm like,
You're
no,
still
I'm
cool.
not. I'm gonna call Stan. I'm gonna see if Stan has any questions since we're having technical difficulties.
I can hear.
Hi.
Oh, you don't have any questions, Stan?
No, I'm fine. I understand.
I have no idea. It must be this room, guys. Yeah. It's gotta be the room.
He hung up.
He hung up and now he's,
No, he's still talking.
He hung up.
You can read it.
Oh my.
You know what?
Unless I got new coffee. Dude. So difficult. Little bit. Ain't you do? Pour him some cup of coffee, you be all right.
Did we kill that?
The volume up?
Yeah, usually we see the two eyes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's see.
I don't need this.
We saw the eyes were on before.
It's just the gable here.
Could you move your foot?
Yep.
Could you move your foot?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Because you want?
It was just in the way for a
Might have
second.
been kicked.
Oh, I'm
Because
sorry.
I was
You're
gonna
good,
say,
not your
yeah,
fault.
the eyes were on before.
Oh,
Yeah, there it is.
All right.
It was just the cable
Yeah,
down
maybe
there.
just don't
Is
hit
it-
the cable, okay?
Yeah.
Be careful.
Yeah, see
Okay.
that white
Yeah, it's
line
like
down
very,
there?
Everything
Okay.
be okay.
so
Good.
hopefully,
I'm that guy, huh?
You're good.
Everybody said, probably always said that. I'm a good guy. Yeah.
There we go, a little owl.
Close
He does that
I
all the time to me. Yeah, and
She's
happy
off
said,
again.
I'm a good guy. I said, yeah, I know I'm a good guy.
Yeah.
It's off
I
again?
said, well, now this
You're bad.
no, I think it's only the on the.
You good?
We're all good.
Yeah.
Should Stan say something to see if it's better?
Camera is off. Yeah, you're right, it says the camera
Did he
is off.
kick it again?
No. They're not near it.
I am
Shouldn't be off. Front camera.
Now, here at home,
Now
I'm
we
seeing
We can hear
the
you now?
camera that's in the room, not the owl.
Yeah.
Now we can hear you.
Yeah.
So Stan, you don't have any questions?
No, not about Social Security, no,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, you.
Dismissed.
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it, thank you. And I'll email you on any of the other stuff we talked about.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
But we have audio and we have that camera. You know what? It's
It's
Have a good
switched
day,
on.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
Yep, we just have these going off here.
You be here for a long time?
Thank you.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we
Thank
go.
you, thank you. All right.
Oh, we were
Okay.
pretty like, oh. We were supposed to close that.
Now I'm seeing both cameras.
All of the cameras. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
All right.
totally your turn now. If you could just reintroduce yourself in case somebody came late or something to the meeting.
Sure. So I'm Michael Briggs, I'm detective with Easthampton PD. I was unaware that I needed a presentation for today, so I apologize.
That's okay.
I'm filling in for Detective Lieutenant Alexander. We had a call come in that he had to do, so. I'm a little, I think I'd just like to open it up. What would you like to know about how law enforcement responds?
So originally, I had asked if there was any special training that all officers receive, or if one particular officer had received some training.
Well, I mean, I'd say 40% of the law enforcement officer's job is training. We're constantly receiving trainings that touch upon handling calls with persons with disabilities. You know, from the start of our academy to our continuing education, we're always learning and we have to be in service. We do have some specialized trainings that assist us, that can assist us, like critical incident training, CIT. You know, I've received a lot of special training doing what I do as far as in my forensic interview course. I've trained to forensically interview people, children, people with disabilities, elders. So there's a great deal of education that goes into it. It's always evolving and we're always learning. Honestly, the best training is just experience. As far as responding to these calls, we respond to any calls for a person who has any disabilities the same way we respond to anyone else. You have a question?
Okay, so when you say you respond the same way that you'd respond to anyone else, that has actually been identified as a problem.
Okay.
You know, because there are folks with disabilities that actually need a different type of response. I'll put out autism as a particular.
I think you should let me finish though.
Yeah, okay.
So, well, we get dispatched, so when I say we respond, we get called, we get dispatched, and we respond to the calls the same way, not we respond as in we act. So, we go out to the call, we would respond and figure out what the situation is, and then we'd have to make a lot of decisions from there. If someone needs some special care, like someone with autism, we have access to our two special services that we can bring into the situation. One thing that we commonly work with is we work with the DPPC, and so if there is a situation, we can file a report with DPPC, which will end up going through the Northwestern District Attorney's Office. And so the Northwestern District Attorney's Office has the Elders and Persons with Disabilities Unit. Okay, so so I guess when I said respond, just mean we show up, and then we have to figure out what's going on.
Totally.
So we never know what we're going through, right? We get a call, we get a few details of information, and then we have to show up and respond to the call. The same way every time, with the same amount of respect and professionalism as always. And then we have to make some decisions based upon that response.
Sumi, you said the report is filed with the
DPPC.
It's the Disabled Persons Protection Commission. So, anytime that we respond to someone who's disabled, if there's any concern of abuse or neglect, we'll file a report with the DPPC. And that will start a chain reaction of activating the elders and ensuring that everything's covered, that this person's receiving the services that they need. In every way. But I appreciate what you're saying. Yes, certain people need special care, and that's, we just jumped a step.
Sorry.
No problem.
No,
problem. You had a gotcha moment there, but I promise you.
I'm actually, I appreciate that you're alert, that you're getting people the services they need, and there's that end. I think, I'm curious about the front end work, honestly, I guess the area that there's a lot of concern on with people on the spectrum or just neurodiverse is that, those initial interactions, there's just documented cases of those initial interactions going south and, unnecessary force, or maybe someone isn't resisting but is perceived as resisting. And what kind of training are you getting handling that kind of stuff with a neurodiverse?
So that's a constant steady stream of training. It's always integrated as far as there's de-escalation training. We have special trainings just focused on autism and dealing with people with autism. So we have that yearly, and they train that in the police academy. There's at least a day course.
A day,
on
okay.
autism.
Well, that's good that there's a day.
When you talk about a police academy, that's actually a significant portion of time.
No, I got 6 hours of training is 6-8 hours of training is great. It's much better than no training.
So there's the initial, and then you continue on.
Yeah.
Then there's the CIT training, okay? And so CIT training, we learned is the goal there is to come up with a resolution that doesn't involve force, doesn't involve arrest, doesn't involve any of that. It's just all about getting people the proper services. The last thing that law enforcement officers want to use is force. Okay? It opens up liability. We don't want to hurt anybody. That's our last option. So I assure you, I've dealt with numerous people as a patrol officer and as a detective with autism, and we try to figure out, because everyone's different, right? And every form of autism can be significantly different in the way they respond and certain things that bother. We had an individual who was very sensitive to lights, and lights would really set this person into a state of crisis. Right? So what we would do is we would turn off our lights, and we would respect that. And then we would be able to find a way to communicate in the way that they want to communicate.
That's great.
So we adapt, and we work with, and we certainly don't want to hurt anyone. That's not what we do.
Of course.
We find a way to de-escalate almost every situation. I think we find in especially in our city, our officers are very rare to turn to use force.
Yeah.
It's certainly a last resort. I hope that answers the question.
I'll let other people ask questions.
Go back to you. Okay, you have more questions. Stan, do you have any questions?
No, it's perfectly clear.
So if you still have questions, and nobody else has a question right now.
You can keep going.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it'll be a little circular, I know you're coming in here, not expecting to present and maybe, stuff like that, and I want to be sensitive to that,
Historically, it was kind of felt that the response was the same to everybody, but that's changed
I mean,
quite a bit.
I've had a good experience with Easthampton law enforcement compared to anywhere else I've lived. So it's nothing personal or against the officers. On the other hand, I see people, news stories of people in wheelchairs getting shot in the back. I see people with autism getting suffocated. These are recent news stories. This isn't a historical thing. So I mean, and I guess the other part of that is just, okay, so, you give any kind of diversity training, and there's a contingency of people that are gonna roll their eyes and whatever. How are you filtering from those people out of the department to begin?
So, law enforcement,
That's
Getting into it, getting heavy, getting deep into.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
So-
you know,
So I don't mean to make a joke about it,
Yeah.
because it's not funny. And
Yeah.
what you're talking about is the worst of the worst. And what you're seeing in the news when you see situations like that, those are the, you know, the worst situations that are gonna make the news like that.
Yeah.
Those aren't the everyday situations. We deal with people with autism and disabilities every single day,
Yeah.
millions of times a week, you know, as far
Yeah.
as not just Easthampton, but in the country,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And how many times does it go well that you hear about? You're not going to hear about it because it just goes well, because it's seamless. Because we know how to behave appropriately. There were times when law enforcement officers weren't trained appropriately. And there's always more to learn, that we can always be better. And we're always striving to be better. And as far as filtering people out, this is a profession of service.
yeah.
People who sign up for this job should be in it for service, okay? Most of the officers that I've met, and I've rarely met an officer that didn't just genuinely care about people, okay? And so they're handling this in a place where they want to help. Okay, I know you see the worst of the worst on the news, but you certainly don't see just the everyday calls that were going on in the news at all. And obviously those really horrible calls, those sit heavy with you because they're horrible.
And they should.
And they should. And we should be held accountable. And we are.
Yeah.
We are held accountable. We misbehave. We are certainly held accountable. Officers lose their jobs. Some lose their homes. And we should be. But I think you should try to be a little open-minded to the fact that there are millions of calls being handled every day that are seamless, that are accounting for for our differences, and we're still cooperating again. Okay? If that.
I think what I just want to hop on that and say is, no matter which profession it is, it can be a police, it can be an office profession. The good outweighs the bad, but it's the bad that always makes the
Well, the
news.
bad secretaries don't have guns.
No, they don't, but they can be just as, I'm just saying, you always see the bad. You never see the good. And I'm not saying, because I do believe, Jeff, that there is bad, and I have seen some of it, okay? With a couple particular officers when I lived in Holyoke, I've seen it, okay? Worked with one
Yeah.
at a school dance, a junior high dance. We all thought he was nice. The next day he was arrested for rape,
Yeah.
okay? You see it,
Yeah.
but we don't see the good too that they do. And I'm not to belittle the bad, because there really is a lot of bad, and there shouldn't be.
And we should be held accountable.
Yeah.
And we are. Look at that officer. That officer was hauled away in handcuffs, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
We're held
but
And I
accountable
mean,
just like everybody.
everybody thought he was the nice, oh, we wanted him at the next dances, he
You
was
have
so
a
nice.
baseline concern here, Joe?
do I have a bit?
Baseline.
Is there an incident here that I could help you with?
Nothing particularly here. I've had experiences in other communities. I mean, I grew up getting stop frisked for walking with a limp all the time in my hometown. So I mean, you know, it's like, you know, and I guess it was a good cop because I didn't get my face bashed in on the windshield. But like, you know, it's like, you know, I guess if the idea is training people to work with, you know, I guess, you know, a good decent cop won't jump, you know, will know to avoid the situations that, you know.
So let me address that, just from a different perspective. Okay? So if you're limping on the side of the road and an officer stops, it could be just to check on you. And if we drive by someone who's limping on
I
the
need
side.
you to stop.
If someone, well, I'm just offering, I'm here to offer.
You're not offering anything. I don't feel like responding to this.
Okay.
Okay, I think.
That's fine, but I would be happy to offer you my perspective on the potential for that.
I don't, you know, it was the repeated nature of it when I was
I
a
can't speak.
teenager, so I
Right.
mean, it wasn't,
Right. Different
yeah,
town.
exactly, I mean, you
A
can't
different
speak to the
town.
circumstances, and you know, there are a lot of ways to rationalize why people are treated poorly, and that comes with good
If they
intentions.
treated you poorly, that's unacceptable. What I would say is that if I saw someone and I was worried about them, I wouldn't stop them, I would go up to them and check on their well-being. That's all. That's all I was offering.
Well, it sounds like what you're saying, Jeff, is that you had some difficult experiences with the police as you were growing up, and this is probably a good thing for police to be aware of, or anybody aware, that it's left a mark. So even though, so somebody, a police officer might need to know that they're being great, but there's a past that other police officers left with this person, and so sometimes you're dealing with that.
I mean, that could be that could be also, but I mean, if you're talking about training, so that this, when we were told there was going to be a speaker, it was what kind of training are people getting specifically to work with people with disability? And, part of that is, why is this training needed? And it's because, there's a track record of people with autism specifically getting treated poorly. There's a track record with, I think the cases, the cases where people are perceived as resisting arrest are the ones that can blow up and bad stuff will happen. So I think, part of it is the right training, part of it is the right people, implementing the right training.
Yeah.
And, so I guess that's where my questions are coming,
Yeah, and I think I kind of addressed.
You've been putting in a good faith effort trying to address it, and I appreciate it.
I mean, clearly, as you said, clearly you had some encounters that were negative, and I apologize for that. Obviously, I have no control over that. What I can tell you is law enforcement is always evolving, always changing. It's a very difficult profession, and not only just to do, but it's also a difficult profession just to stay on top of everything. We're expected to know a lot of material about a lot of different subjects, and about a lot of different people, and about a lot of their things that they're dealing with. And recently, we've come up with, to help us do better, is with more of a teamwork approach. Okay, so now we're working more than ever, and that's kind of what I was alluding to, but maybe I'll be a little clearer. Is that we work together. So we work with the DA's office, who has resources. We work with clinical support options if they need those kind of resources. We work as a team to make sure people get the proper help. And if you're getting stopped unnecessarily and harassed, I'm sorry about that. I can't speak to that. All I can offer you is my perspective. Is if I saw someone on the side of the road and I was worried about them, I might perform a well-being check.
Yeah.
And I apologize
of
if
course.
that felt like I was overstepping. But
it's just I would have to go into the whole context of how often this happened when I lived in Long Meadow as a teenager.
Outside of here, if you want to talk to me about it, we can have a conversation.
So what you're saying is the town of Easthampton is holding our police department to higher standards, having you work as a team.
That's one of, we're held to higher standards.
But we're trying to go above that.
And we're always pushing ourselves to be better and to learn more. And we get training through the Commonwealth every year that we have to stay up on.
But to reinforce what Jeff said, it happens that on the survey we put out last year for one respondent said specifically that they were constantly harassed by the Easthampton police because they walked with a limp. And the other thing is that, I mean, I've had a lot of negative encounters with the police, including in Easthampton. I don't know if they were directly related to my disabilities, but one of the less negative encounters I had was an officer checking if I was okay, and I told him I was okay, and he continued to pry, and it did make me feel unsafe once I said I was okay and he didn't leave me alone. like he was looking for something wrong, right? And he wouldn't take, yeah, I'm fine, thank you, for an answer.
Well, I'm sorry he made you feel that way, but all I can speak to is that for whatever reason, you felt like he wanted to communicate with you a little more than that. Maybe because we don't, obviously, we need to ask you some questions and maybe have a dialogue to determine if you have a disability. We don't know, right? We don't necessarily know. We have to get some information in order to perform appropriately. So if he asked you too many questions, maybe he was just trying to ascertain what was going on that day. I don't know, I can't speak to him. But
Could he
I
have
do
said
want-
no to the questions?
Of course, you could say no, and you can walk away, but if he's just trying to talk to you. But again, I don't know all of the details, and I'm sorry you felt that way. All I can speak to is perhaps, for whatever reason, you felt like you just wanted a little more information from you. And I apologize if you felt like he was prying, but sometimes part of our job is to be, is to keep our eyes out for anything and have conversations to make sure you're okay. Because someone with the disabilities, like you said, someone with the disabilities, initially, an officer could think that there's a medical issue. An officer could think that there's intoxication. And without asking some questions, they don't know the answer to that, right? So, like, a simple example that's completely separate from this is if I stop someone who crashed their car and they seem like they're impaired from alcohol, I need to ask them some questions because they could be someone who's diabetic, in which I've had this scenario come up where it seems like one thing but it's another, right? So again, this is just an example, but we need to get more information. And how do we get that information? We talk to them.
Yeah.
And that's our biggest tool. And if they didn't approach you in a friendly manner, or if they were prying too much, I really can't speak to the scenario or all the details. You ask me here and you ask me that question, I'm trying to answer it. But it's hard for me to answer a scenario-based question without all the facts, right?
Right, so I'm not asking for you to respond to that particular situation. I just wanted to make the point that the way people experience encounters with the police is not always the way the police think of it happening.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. And this is a matter of perspective, and that's what I was trying to address, right? There's perspective that you feel, and then there's the perspective of the law enforcement officer, right? So law enforcement feels like they have a job to do, and sometimes when they do that job, it's perceived in a different way. Sometimes, I'm not speaking to either of you in your instance, but if I see someone and I'm worried about them, I'm going to stop and I'm going to talk to them, okay? If I have a reason I'm going to stop, I'm going to talk to them, and it's not a seizure, okay? It's not that I'm stopping them, I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to check on their well-being, because I have a responsibility that if something should happen, okay, and I fail to act, then I'm also held accountable. My failure to do anything is something that's also an issue as a law enforcement officer. So we should be handling these calls appropriately, but we obviously don't know, your disabilities until we meet, until we have a conversation. And if officers aren't listening to you, then that's a problem that we have to fix, okay? But we are receiving trainings. We are looking to recognize what situations we're walking into. And without a conversation, which is the only way we can get information, we don't have much to work on. But I can't speak to your specific incident. Like you said, you were trying to make a point, and I'm just trying to make that we have two different perspectives. Sometimes you might feel like you're being stopped, but you're not. You're just being checked.
Will you bring this back to the department and let the chief know that this is like some of the feelings?
Sure, absolutely.
Just maybe it can be discussed.
If you have some kind of survey that you are talking about, did you share that with the lieutenant? Was this shared with?
Yeah, well,
I think that would be.
Yeah, the raw data, I think, is available on the city's website. We're preparing a presentation on it that has taken an absurdly long time to put together.
I'm doing the best I can as the walk-in here.
No, you're doing
Detective
great.
Lieutenant Alexander is the you know, he is a liaison officer. That should be shared with him, and obviously that will be shared with the entire department. Okay, we want to give you the best service we possibly can.
Is there a particular like thing that somebody could file or a way to go if they felt they weren't treated?
Yeah, they can file a complaint. They can go into the police station and request to file a complaint.
Do you guys have other questions?
I have a question. If somebody bothers me, or whatever you call that word is, if somebody, we have, like, say something that want to go with them in their car, what should I say? Because if they want to take you with them.
No, are you talking about a police officer, or are you just talking about someone who wants to take you?
No, if somebody wants to take you away, I mean, to get in their car.
Kidnap you.
It's always scary.
Yeah.
I get scared because I'm a person need, and that's how I feel. And I feel I'm a person need. I'm who I am. That's who I am, and that's what I'm not. And I'm not choosing for somebody because I just take a person need in their car. They don't know that person.
Yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry you have to deal with you.
No,
Do
yeah,
you
you know.
keep a phone with you?
I have a cell phone. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you ever have those feelings, if you're ever even nervous, you can always call us. We're happy to get you where you need to be, walk with you, or help you get wherever you need to go see.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, if you're ever afraid, that's what they pay us for. If you're afraid, call us.
Yeah.
Like they adore.
We get paid to make you feel safe. That's what we're gonna do.
All right. I just wanted to get in,
Yeah, no.
the bill. Am I right? Am I right, Jeff?
You should feel
That
safe.
makes sense.
That's what I felt.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
We'll
Yeah.
talk about it after.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, my thing, a question.
Yeah.
You got scared when you were a little boy?
Oh, is that gonna be?
Yeah,
With the
Oh,
police
yes, it
officer.
was.
okay.
Sorry, but.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, right.
I guess,
Don't worry,
let me
Dave.
try one more. So one of the great things that you said you did was how you were working with someone with autism and light sensitivity, and you were making accommodations, based on that. In the initial interaction, how are you making the assessment that there's light sensitivity?
So, and that was just what I was talking to you about, because we communicate. We find a way to communicate, because obviously, sometimes we're dealing with individuals who are not able to communicate.
Yes,
verbally.
exactly.
So we need to we're conducting a small investigation just right there, right? We're trying to figure out how we can help this person, how we can communicate with this person, what their needs are, and how we can safely resolve the issue. Like, I can give you an example of an individual who had autism, who was walking roadways, who was endangering himself and others in the way they operate a motor vehicle, okay? And we absolutely did everything we could to cater and take care of that person, but at the same time, we also have,
of course,
we have other people on the roadways, so we have to think about them as well. We have families and children, there's a lot of things that go into our decisions. So sometimes people can feel like they're being targeted, but we have to make these decisions based upon the information we have, right? And we gather that from communication is our primary tool. And if someone was communicating rudely with you, that's not acceptable. But communication is something that's what we do.
I mean, some people with autism are rude.
Exactly.
But like, how are you separating different levels of rudeness? I guess that's the key, and that's the hard thing.
I thought you said they didn't say. I'm sorry, I didn't say so.
Or
rude.
it could be non-verbal. It could be communicated rudely.
We're used to people being rude to us. That's not a problem. That's what we deal with.
How did you resolve that particular issue?
Well, that's not something I guess that's a long conversation. But our primary goal was to make it so that person, unfortunately, that person couldn't drive anymore because it was just too dangerous at the time until we knew that they could drive. So action had to be taken there. But I thought the good example was that I dealt with this individual on the overnights. I found out how he communicated. I was able to communicate with him. I was able to take care of his needs, which were to turn off lights. When he was in crisis, I was able to get him the help he needed through his household and the services he received. So it's not there's no cut and dry
Yeah.
explanation. Every single person,
Yeah.
every single scenario we go on
Yeah.
is so different. And we
Yeah.
have to have these little investigations to figure out
Yeah.
how we can best help this person. And obviously, we can't get everything right all the time.
Yeah.
But we're trying. We're trying the best we can.
Well, we have to move on to the rest of our stuff. That's okay. And if people have questions, should they contact Officer Alexander?
Yeah, I think they could, or if you have a question about something I said, I know I rambled a lot here, you're welcome to respond.
No, you did good, you did good.
You've done great, especially
Yeah.
for being thrown
No,
into
you
the
did.
situation.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Nice to meet all of you.
Nice to meet you. I forgot your name.
Michael Briggs.
Michael Brick. Okay. I have a hard time with people names.
That's
If
okay.
you need anything, all right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mike. Michael or Mike or whatever.
Michael Brady.
You guys are making me laugh.
Goodbye, Michael
Sorry,
Brady.
I'm
You're
going.
making me
Good day,
laugh.
Michael.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so do you want to talk about what you've sent out, the,
Minute approval. Approve the minutes.
yes, thank you. Does anybody that was at the last meeting have anything that's missing from the minutes? No? Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to pass them. Is there somebody that could second that motion?
Second.
I just want to check
Yes.
to make sure we have a quorum, because we do
I
have a number
thought
of
we
members
did.
absent.
Five, we need five.
Yeah, we got 5.
4.
Okay.
But thank you.
Great,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. That's what you're there for. So if we're all in favor, then, in terms of the members.
Big no.
So nobody has any issues, we can pass them, we can put them in?
Yep.
Okay.
Gary.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you just want to mention the email you sent out about the survey subcommittee.
Yeah, so I know it's taken a long time to follow up on this, but I'm trying to schedule a subcommittee meeting to work on the presentation of the survey. We're hoping to do that, hoping to have that meeting next week. And so I sent out a doodle poll through, I emailed a doodle poll to everyone, and if you could please respond to that as soon as possible, I'd appreciate that if you're willing to help with the survey presentation.
Sounds good. The next thing
Oh,
is,
one more thing.
yes,
Also, this Thursday at 10 o'clock in the, at the Council on Aging is the
vision.
VIP meeting, the visually impaired, whatever, I forget exactly what it stands for, but it's
Party.
it's a meeting that, about blind issues, and I think they're having a speaker from Easter Seals.
Yes.
So this Thursday at 10
Easter
o'clock.
Seals is going to be there, yes.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
We'll let you know what's available.
Okay, so in terms of the resource guide, I had sent it to Liz, who is a person that knows about a lot of resources here, but she said it wasn't attached, so I have to resend it because she's gonna look at it and make sure we're not missing anything. So I'll get back to you guys on that. We had Eli, Jeff Bagg, and I had a meeting with Officer Alexander and Liz about the snow removal. Do you want to speak on that a little bit? The meeting we were in about the snow removal.
I would, but I don't really know what to
Well,
say about it.
I mean, they
Sorry.
talked about the possibility of making some sort of like reminder postcard and putting it in people's mailboxes, who are, I guess, like, I don't know if I want to call them repeat offenders. But also, Jeff Bagg was saying that if we do that type of stuff, if we hand it, we don't have a way of tracking. The officers said that they currently don't have a code. They do go out for reminder calls to clear people, people to clear snow. But it's booked under different things because they don't actually have a code for snow removal issues. And so we asked if they could go and look into possibly having that so we could be better at tracking it, because otherwise there's no way. I asked about their system, could they put in snow, and then they were like, well, towing might come up from the snow, or like hundreds of entries, and so we talked about whether or not they could change that.
Well, the one thing we have going in our favor is that the post office, if you do not shovel, will not deliver.
Right.
So that's another avenue we have.
But that's if they're in a walking neighborhood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I assume that's only if they don't clear the snow from around the mailbox.
Yeah.
Right.
But if they're walking on the sidewalk in front of your house.
Right.
Oh, then they won't either.
Yeah,
Well,
if they say they walk along your sidewalk and they have to go up to your porch for the mailbox, if you're not shoveled they will walk up to put a card in your mailbox to tell you that they will not deliver your mail because you haven't shoveled.
But they won't deliver the mail.
Correct.
That's cute.
Yeah, that is funny.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
But, I mean, that's a back avenue we have on that too.
Not very bad.
I'm forgetting who
People
Liz
got
is.
trouble.
Who's Liz?
She was a person, she came last month. She's like
Yeah, Liz Pluff.
Oh, the social worker?
Yeah.
she's like a social
Yeah.
Okay,
worker.
right. Yeah, gotcha.
Yes.
So she's the city social.
So we had like a second meeting because,
Okay.
especially because I was over the computer, like we didn't
Right.
quite understand what the difference between the woman that comes with the officers
Mhm.
and like her role.
Mhm.
And so she tried to explain that her role was different. She was more
Right.
about resources and
Great, yep.
and she did offer, like, well, could people contact her so that she could help around the snow removal? But then I guess she didn't realize, I don't know, stuff with the police. So then we ended up having a meeting with Officer Alexander,
Okay.
who said that he does get calls, but there's just not a way to track. And am I missing things from that meeting? Do you feel like I'm missing anything, or you're like, I don't know?
I mean,
So Eli has.
I don't know. I'm
Eli
sorry,
really
like-
feels like the streets and the sidewalk should be one unit, and they should all be taken care of, because otherwise that's ridiculous. They're prioritizing vehicles over
Oh,
walking.
okay, sure.
And so when he says that, people tend to,
Yeah.
or they're like,
Yeah.
well, that's not the way it is.
Yeah.
And then Eli's like, wah!
Yeah.
And I've said it 30 times.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
it's one
just-
system.
There is quite a bit of walkers here in Easthampton.
Right.
I don't think people realize it.
So they sort of just said they didn't have the manpower and
Right.
money,
Right.
manpower, money
To
yeah.
enforce.
But anyway, that's
to
That's-
clear everything that should be at the same
Right.
time as the roads, or even before the roads.
I could say a lot about this, but I don't think we have time right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're running.
Agreed.
All right. So is there any new business that I'm missing?
How about the school tour dates?
Yeah, so she didn't get back to me. She just said, give me some January
I'm
dates.
sorry.
That's okay. Speaking out of turn. So yeah, she didn't get back to me yet, because what I wrote back to, her name is Jean Libby, was that, are we talking about going on a tour while kids are in school? That doesn't make sense. It would make sense that it would be after 3, because she never said after 3 to me, so I'm just clarifying. Is it after 3? Because otherwise we would have gone from here over there, because people would be here and we could put them in cars if you don't have a car or whatever and go, but like I think it's probably needs to happen after school, so don't have an update on that, unfortunately.
Maybe they'll have another open house for people who couldn't go to the first one.
The problem with that is they shut down certain rooms for the open house. So this is, I mean, she has no problem. She said in January we can go.
Okay.
But, and the PTSD panel, I haven't started working on that. And I know Molly, you want to talk about that at some point. So, is there not other new business from anybody? Nobody? Our next meeting is the 7th, I believe, February 7th.
Right.
At 10 a.m.
So just back to the snow removal for a second.
Yeah.
So the sidewalks, are they saying they don't have the resources to do the city sidewalks? Or are they saying they don't have the resources to get homeowners to do their sidewalks, or both?
Yeah, no, they do, they do clear snow off of the sidewalks that are on city
City,
property.
okay.
Yeah,
But it's the homeowners that
Right.
are the problem. So if you call the police and say, my neighbor, you know, I have to walk that way to go to work or whatever, and they aren't clearing it, will they say, we'll talk to them, or do they say tough, or?
They said that that they will come out, but it has to be after the 12 hours. And I sort of said, well, where did this 12-hour thing come from? And they weren't sure. It's just like.
So basically, people have 12 hours to clear their sidewalk.
Yes, I think from the end of the storm.
End of the storm.
From the end of the storm, right.
But again, it's such a gray area because they have the money to do city sidewalks, and technically, the sidewalk in front of your house is city property.
Right, so I think they also just said they prioritize roadways, which was.
They prioritize the main streets.
Well,
Roadways
roads first, and then, yes,
Yeah,
the main streets.
main
And they
sidewalks.
said if we know of any places that aren't getting shoveled, like, they have no problem going to that person and telling them they need to take care of it, to call them.
Has there been any work for ice removal and just the fall, you know, shoveling the snow the first day is great. Keeping it up when it freezes into black ice is always
Yeah.
the problem that
Yeah.
Yeah, Stan, go ahead.
Why can't they simply enforce the ordinance that's on the books? If that won't cost them any money, because the money to clear for the city to clear the sidewalk is paid by the landowner if they don't clear it on their own after, the proper warnings. It's all in the city bylaws, in the ordinance.
We did talk about the
And it
ordinance.
includes the landowner paying for the clearing.
Right, they did talk about the ordinance. This is about people knowing ahead of time to get it done, and if they don't, then because they're like, oh, there's no problem, call us, we'll go out. But we were talking about how a lot of people are afraid of the police, or we don't want to involve the police, or, yeah.
Quick question, is there, because you mentioned a postcard, is there money available somewhere for either the COD or the city to send a postcard to every homeowner saying, effective 2023, all sidewalks need to be cleared within the 12 hours after the storm, or city ordinance, whatever the number is that Stan is referring to, will be enacted and you will be responsible for paying.
Good question.
Put it up front and tell them, we're gonna start charging you if we have to come out here.
So I think the angle, I'm not sure on that piece. I think we were talking as, so we came from both angles, right? Like, there's disabled people that can't get through because they need the walkways, but then there was also like, what if the person not clearing has a disability, and how to determine that? Because then if you find them or you threaten them, like, that's not really fair. So, right, so there's, I don't know, we kind of went round in circles.
I'm just thinking if there's any way either the city or us could hook up with students at the high school who
Liz
need
did bring that
community
up.
hours,
Liz did bring that up.
where they could go and shovel sidewalks for the disabled or senior citizens who need help.
Right.
That would give them the community hours they need for whatever, or even be good on their application for college.
Right, so Liz said that if somebody calls her about, a sidewalk, she might she said she was gonna check with the high school, that she might, but, you know, there's areas where I think nobody thinks it's their job to shovel it, or there's confusion. I mean, he did talk about, you know, going to people's houses to try to figure out, like, it's okay to call the police, so they can go knock and see if it's like, I didn't know I had to clear it, I didn't know that it was mine,
Or I'm not
sidewalk,
capable
right, I'm
of
not
it.
capable, yeah. Or I've been away on vacation. I mean, I brought up like what happened, because when I lived in an apartment, right, like you still have to go to work, you still have to go to school, so that 12-hour thing is kind of ridiculous, and then the landlord isn't clearing anything, and then you're still expected to show up at work or school. So I was like, where did the 12 hours come from? But in other instances, he was like, okay, so if it snows 9 o'clock at night, I'm not going to expect them to have it when you're necessarily by 9 in the morning. He's not necessarily going to find somebody because it's not, I
Yeah,
mean,
because some communities are 24 hours.
so, yeah, I don't know where the 12 came from. Sometimes 12 fits, other times it doesn't, I don't know.
When is the PSA gonna start?
It's been out.
Okay,
It's been out since we made it. It's been out for months, and then they just re-put it out.
Do we have an Easthampton television station, like on the cable television?
The Easthampton Media thing?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what it is, so that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking.
190 and 191, I believe.
Thank you.
On cable.
Okay, because,
Easthampton Media, you can call them. They're over in the Eastworks building. And they have a website giving their schedule of broadcasts that you can see on the website. easthamptonmedia.org.
thank you, because that way I didn't know where it was. So it's showing there, but we do have to, maybe
Yeah.
even a flyer or something, get it out in the mail.
Yeah. Do we want to, like, have more conversations about this? Yeah, because if we do, it would be good to dedicate
A meeting.
time to it instead of trying to throw a conversation together right now.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Yes, Dan.
Might it be possible to invite someone from the city ordinance committee to talk to us about how they intended the ordinance to be administered?
Yes. Yeah, I could do that. I'm trying to think who I might, yeah, I could ask a couple of them. I mean, unfortunately, it's also, the next meeting is a month from now, so there's maybe snow between now and then, but, yeah, we have to revisit the postcard thing, because I thought Liz said she was gonna work on designing it, but that was like weeks ago, so I haven't heard from her, so maybe she didn't. Or maybe we're supposed to, I don't know, that was unclear at the end of the meeting.
Can we, for next meeting, I know we're February, but have just a few items and put most of the meeting towards the snow removal?
Yeah, I mean, unless stuff pops up.
So,
but,
right,
Yeah.
but just, as Eli said, let's have a dedicated
Yeah, I didn't
amount
know.
of time.
I didn't know that Jeff wasn't going to be here, and I also didn't know, because a police officer was supposed to come last month, and then he didn't come, so like that wasn't, I didn't realize we were
That
gonna be
threw
here
us.
for a half hour, yeah, so.
Does it make any sense for Liz to be part of these meetings? I don't know if the city can
I
manage
can
that.
ask her
Yeah.
if she, that's a good question.
Yeah,
Like regularly be
Yeah.
here.
yeah.
And then the public safety, city council, okay. Okay, I can ask, yeah,
All right.
all right, so,
The meeting.
yeah, we have to,
Adjourn.
yeah, we have to do the official, like, everybody okay with ending the meeting?
Yeah.
Yes, all right.